forward. Stanford has this whole startup culture, and I'm really excited to know like you're thinking about environmental science and the startup world. Sometimes you feel that doing good and social impact entrepreneurship is sometimes kind of pushed under the rug and not talked about too much. So, what are the resources you think Stanford gave you to start thinking about the startup idea?
Yeah, so I think, ironically, I don't know that I was quite as interested in kind of being involved in a startup at some point when I was at Stanford. Because it's in Silicon Valley and a lot of the startups there are very involved in kind of tech and computer science. Those weren't areas that I was as interested in. And so I think a lot of that kind of not quite went over my head, but just wasn't something that I put a lot of time into looking into. It was actually when I was studying abroad at the University of Hyderabad that they have a startup incubator there, specifically in the School of Life Science. I think it's called Aspire BioNest. And so they've started up a lot of different companies, all focused on kind of making tangible changes in kind of the food system, agriculture, biopharma, and so kind of topics that were a lot more interesting to me. So, for example, I think some of the businesses that they're currently starting up have to do with kind of creating plant-based protein, but coming from just basically leaves as opposed to like food or seeds of plants. And so, like for one, as someone who's vegan, and very exciting to learn about kind of new types of plant protein that people are trying to create, but also just in terms of the kind of impact that would have on like the food system overall. I think that was where I kind of began to think seriously about whether sort of my view of startups as being only about kind of like just tech and like software development wasn't really accurate, and that there was a lot of room for kind of doing the types of projects I was interested in, but in a startup environment. And then from there, then kind of going back and like the things I'd heard about startups at Stanford then became more relevant. Yeah, I think it was just a matter of, I guess maybe the sort of larger theme or thing to take away is that it was sort of the experience of figuring out where it is that my interests line up with what it is I want to do, and sort of kind of where the sort of interest and action kind of find an intersection. And I think that's definitely helpful for me as I'm thinking about what I want to do next and what I want to do going forward, is finding something both that I'm interested in, but also is the kind of like type of action and change that I want to be a part of and that I think I could be the most useful in.